SBCN TV with my very good friend and sponsor of this lovely TV show, Steve Bentley, Northern River Financial.
Yes, and you got the opening done right tonight. That's great.
That's because I had no wine.
Yeah, maybe you're practicing a little bit.
Maybe because I had no wine. So, Steve, it's a beautiful, beautiful day. I'm sorry to drag you here on such a lovely, lovely evening, but we're quite excited, aren't we? This will be the 9th episode.
9th episode. Can you believe it?
I can't believe it. And it's been such a fun time, hasn't it?
It's gone so quickly. I can't believe it.
And we've had some great questions, and we've answered those questions.
We're getting a lot of good feedback.
We're getting a lot of good feedback. So to start off this evening, we do have a question from someone called Trevor Wright, who is located in Guelph, Ontario, and he is I guess he's the owner of Wright Associates.
Wright & Associates, yes.
Yes, so
absolutely.
His question is, Steve, and I'll throw this to you first. What qualities, what qualifies someone as a small business expert? That's a good question. There are these coaches and consultants out there, and I've always wondered how they are qualified and whom I should work with. What a great question, Trevor. Thank you so much.
So, shall I start?
You start,
all right.
because
I
you
can't
are an
stand
expert.
the concept or the title, small business expert. I don't think anybody really is truly defined as an expert. And I think that's where I start, right? Because everybody always has a bit of knowledge they need to gain. They're always trying to acquire knowledge. So I don't like the term expert. I think it's a little too sharp, to be honest with you. But it's a very valid question and something we've discussed in past. But I think the key thing is how do you qualify somebody in terms of whether they would make a good consultant or coach or mentor?
What would you
right?
do if you were going to look for someone?
Well, I actually had a little bit of thought on this matter because I wrote an article actually for the SBCN website a couple months ago. And I think the key thing is there's a number of things to define. I think what the biggest thing is you need to do your own homework to define exactly what you need, okay? Because a lot of people could call themselves coaches, but you got to find the one that's very specific to what you think your need is. And so there's nothing wrong with trying to define that and then potentially try to target through referrals or introductions people who've used coaches,
good point,
ones that you feel would fit whatever it is you think you're looking for in a coach.
Testimonial is a great idea.
Testimonial is very important. And also think about doing interviews with these coaches, right? Don't just say, oh, yes, it sounds great based on the literature, we'll go ahead with it, right? Because you got to look to know that there's a chemistry between the two of you. Maybe chemistry is a strong word, but you have to know that you can talk and respond and sort of understand each other and have some kind of a basis for a relationship.
Well, this show, we advertise ourselves as a small business experts, but in the sense that we each have an expertise so we can answer these questions. Mm-hmm. But as you mentioned, we're continually educating ourselves, aren't we?
We should be.
Yes, you're often at these conferences, aren't you, to do with the financial sector?
Absolutely.
I'm in a different boat. What I did, Steve, because I kind of have had a really quiet day today. I've been in my office all day, so I had a bit more time than you. So the definition of an expert is a person who has a comprehensive and authoritative, I almost said it, knowledge of or skill in a particular area. Mm-hmm. So basically, an expert is someone who has prolonged or intense experiences through practice and education in a particular field. So take me, for instance. I'm a business consultant, motivational speaker. I do lots of other stuff, as you know. A business owner, but the point is this: I basically have not been to school for this, haven't taken any coaching courses. I'm not a coach, don't ever call me that, but basically my expertise and my continued educating myself is why I'm not an expert, but I can offer the expertise. So an expert more generally is a person who has extensive knowledge or ability based on research. So that's how I started my business, and I continue to research. Whoops, that's my phone gone. Basically, why do I research? Because if I get a client who wants something very specific and I haven't got that skill set, I haven't experienced it, I can either research by coming to you, Steve, or I can research by going online. So basically, that is the definition of an expert. In my case, like you, I'd never call myself an expert. I've done the research, I've got the experience and my occupation. What about you, Steve? What can you add to this?
Well, the couple things based on what you just said there. I mean, people may call themselves experts, but that's their own interpretation. We obviously have our own, right?
I'm going to pick my phone
I
up.
think the key thing to think about is people that are willing to sit down with you and define, not tell you what you need, but interview you, meet with you, and try and come up with an understanding of what they feel you're looking for, as opposed to saying, here's my program or here's my experience, because everybody's going to have a different need and everybody's going to be different.
But do you think it's about degrees? Like you've got a degree.
No, not at all.
You've got
Not
a
at all.
degree though, right?
Absolutely. A couple,
And have
yeah.
you got letters after your name?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that mean though that, you know, you are an expert in some areas and keep growing that expertise?
Well, that's the key thing, is keep growing that expertise. And as a certified financial planner, this is something we have to do is for licensing purposes is things called continuing education credits. The second thing I'm going to say to you, though, is a good way to look at somebody as to if they are truly good in their field is to look at their bio. So not so much what's on their website or what they want to give you in the marketing material. Go to LinkedIn. Look at their experience,
Good
right? So
idea.
if they say, I'm an expert in manufacturing, for example.
Yeah.
Well, what experience have they had in manufacturing? Have they run some businesses? Have they had a long history, as you said earlier,
That's a good
a long
idea.
history of definitive success, right? If somebody's been working in a manufacturing environment for 2 years as a VP and all of a sudden is off selling insurance, well, if they want to call themselves an expert in manufacturing, I start to wonder, right? Very, very simple example, but that's just sort of something where people need to find and do their research, try and find out as much as they can on the people that they're trying to connect with.
Yeah. So I think the same as Steve. You know, look for testimonials, look who people are working with. I've got to kind of say, though, that the business expertise that's out there when you network and you build these relationships, we can talk to people like we're doing now. Mm-hmm. We can ask our trusted connections if they can give us some advice. I'm very wary of the word coach, and yes. I'm not being mean. There are some amazing coaches out there, and I do believe a coach is different to a business consultant for the simple reason some coaches think one size fits all, and others don't. That's great, but a business consultant is not the same, completely different. So I think people get confused. So Trevor, are you looking to work with a coach? Are you looking for a business consultant? What kind of area do you need help in? Those are the questions, you know, I'll be asking yourself. And then whether you ask Steve, you know, now, or me now, whether you asked another trusted connection, you've got to know what kind of help you need. What kind
I think that's a very important point.
Because if Trevor doesn't know, we don't know.
Mm-hmm. But everybody should have what I call centers of influences, if not people that are in the same industry, who are friends, people who could be their professional consultants in other aspects of the business. Don't be afraid to sort of reach out and sort of get everybody's perspective that you have some value in terms of the information they're providing, because they may well round out some of the things that you should be asking these people as potential coaches, consultants.
And also, Trevor uses the word qualified. So, Trevor, qualifications, qualified, like I have no qualifications per se. As I said, to be a business consultant or the other stuff I do, but mine are lived experiences, mine are, you know, research and stuff like that. You've got qualifications, but I don't think you can judge somebody by the degree of qualifications, lack of or not. It's about, you know, getting to know them. And again, be very specific, Trevor, when you are looking for somebody to work with, and please don't pay any money up front. Let's see if we can do, you know, one of these things where you talk to them and get a consultation before you pay the money up front.
And as you know, some good consultants, coaches, mentors, whatever the term is, will do presentations, will do talks, but just avoid that money grab, because there's a lot of them that will try and grab you. They'll give you little tidbits. The other thing is, I'll give you the perfect example where somebody I knew was looking for a contract position, not directly related, but where it was so prevalent to have a degree in this particular field, right? And every time they were talking to somebody, well, do you have a degree? Do you have a degree? Well, this person didn't have a degree, but they had 30 years of very qualified experience in the area that a lot of people may not have. So there needs to be a balance. It's not just credentials, it's experience, it's track record, it's history of doing the job or success in the area they're consulting in.
Yeah, I think you've made some very good points, Steve, and you've been in business a long time. So you, in my mind, are a qualified expert who has a lot of expertise and keeps on educating yourself. What worries me is another trick I found is, do people walk their talk? Do people really emulate their brand? For instance, I say this to people, the Small Business Community Network, we have a free drop-in coffee, SBCN Coffee Connect, at a cafe locally in Kitchener. It's basically for me to be there for our members if they want mentoring. It's for me to meet new people who come along and want to know about the SBCN. But I wouldn't be sitting in a cafe, looking for clients for motivational steps. That would not suit my brand. So if Trevor was thinking about, using me as a business consultant and I'm looking for clients in the cafe, I would say basically, what kind of fee are you willing to pay as well? You can always tell there's like generations of people who, charge different fees. So where people network, where people looking for clients, I think that also gives you an idea of their level of experience. Does that make any sense?
Yes. I think there's another good aspect too, is the medium we're on right now. Good consultants, good mentors, coaches will show themselves either engaging with an audience or showing an example of work they've done or just some kind of video, so you can actually get a perspective of somebody other than
and they will give
static
stuff away. I don't mean give their services away, but they'll do videos and give all the information and the tips, rather saying, well, if you want to know more, we're going to charge you $1,000, because I think that's mean. I think that's kind of reeling people in. And you know what? If you're going to give anything away, make it of value. I don't exactly mean you've got to work for free. It's not so much that.
I think the value says itself. I mean, they should not be afraid to be giving away information, techniques, skills, because you're not going to absorb it in a half-hour presentation.
No.
You will be willing to take it further if you feel there's value that you've received
People
from
will
this
need
person.
Explanations, and they'll need to be guided. Can I ask you a question, though? Why does everybody hate the word coach? It's really like a dirty word today, and there's some good coaches out there. There really is.
There is. It's not really the word coach. It's how the word coach gets used. And it's been given a bad name because there's a lot of people, and don't just say coaching. There's a lot of different professions too, where there's a lot of people that call themselves a coach, and they're not. And so people sort of get, and because coaches are typically in a sales capacity to try and sell their services, that sales mantra is a little turning off for a lot of people. So they get that word coach. And if they get emails or LinkedIn messages or phone calls, I'm a coach, oh my gosh, because the first thing you think is they want to sell something.
It's like a saturated area now, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, Trevor, thank you. Trevor Wright Associates, thank you for your question. Really appreciate it. Steve and I can obviously follow up with you if you want any more information. So when you've been out and about this week, Steve, have you, found out any new information or any ideas what people are looking for in the way of help for small businesses?
From a small business perspective, no, but the government is coming out with a program for first-time home buyers, which I won't get into a lot of detail on this show because it's fairly new, but basically it's a government is willing to, if your income is under $120,000 and your mortgage is less than $480,000 first-time home, they're partnering up and they're willing to offer you some upfront money depending on your situation,
really
which basically is a loan, and it's repayable either when you sell that house or after 25 years. So the idea is to try and create a bit of an ability for people to get into real estate based on the values that they are now, right? And so it can be up to $50,000. So that can be a fairly significant help for people trying to get into homes.
Especially if they are in a small business and they really need that bit of help, to move into a home. I think, thank you, Mr. Government. That is really good.
Well, where it's good for small businesses, because small business owners are usually obviously self-employed, right?
Yes.
So they don't have the benefits like when they're trying to qualify for a mortgage as somebody who has a regular T4 income.
It's difficult. What I've noticed this week, I've been staying close to home. I've been staying in my office doing a lot of work, but people have been, emailing me and stuff like that. One of the biggest questions is, how do you choose, we're going back to networking, an event that works for you? And that is one of the things it's very difficult to answer, because why are you networking? Are you looking for education because seminars? Are you looking for referrals, referral-based networking? Are you looking for mix and mingle, social networking? How would you answer that question? It depends on the person, doesn't it, and what they want out of networking?
There's so many variables. I mean, where are you at your stage of your business? What is it that you're looking for? What is it you're comfortable with? What are you not comfortable with? There's And I think the biggest thing is don't go spend a lot of money to go to a networking function, because you need to find out what works for you. Some things don't. I think I told you years ago, first one I ever went to, I didn't even go in the door. And that's probably because I wasn't sure what it was and I wasn't sure what I needed. So I think people need to just reach out and, again, talk to people who are networking and find out what do you think would, and go as a guest, right? Yeah. Don't make any formal commitment. Just go as a guest, somebody you can be with, so you're not necessarily intimidated.
And to just qualify that, some organisations offer guests for free, some there's a minor charge, and I think that probably people see more value if there's a bit of a charge, because what I see locally is people going to lots of free events and not valuing the time there and not valuing the fact it took time to offer the free events. So, don't just go to free events because they're free, because you might be missing out.
Well, that's an interesting point, because actually we're going to be going to a seminar downtown in Toronto in a couple of months, and this person is a very professional photographer worldwide, and he could charge a large amount to attend, but he's not. He's providing the information. He's going. It helps promote his business, of course, right? But it's $9 to get in. But the point is, it's not because
he's asking a nominal fee,
right? He wants to make sure that if you're going to say, "I'm coming," and you pay $9, well, there's a good chance you will be there.
Yeah. I like that. That's a really good way to go. Another tip I learned years ago. So we all know what an invoice is, don't we? Yeah. When you're writing an invoice for somebody, and you've decided you're going to do a freebie. Okay, or the barter system, whatever you want to do. So what I started doing years ago was always putting the correct price of my service on there, but then making the invoice zero, which meant that, this is what I'm giving you. This is how much this is worth, and this will be a one-time only, because people keep coming back for more when you give freebies. But if they're seeing an invoice,
why not? I'm not paying for it, right?
Yeah, but if they're seeing an invoice, that's a tip I learned years ago. And people don't value free. They really don't value free.
No, and we do the same thing with what we call letters of engagements, where it specifies the services and it breaks down fees. It's important, because it's and that's the other thing about people who are coaches and in various ways.
I love that look on your face.
Is they need to know their time is of value, and what they're offering is of value. So when you see a coach out there who's really discounting what they're doing, you got to wonder why.
The other tip I'd give to the coaches who are going to coffee shops, I'd say it's not a good venue for you, because if you're coaching somebody in the coffee shops, even quiet, noisy, whatever it is, it's not really a professional place. So Steve and I both know many places locally where you can actually pay for a desk, can't you? There's loads of them. And then that gives a bit more of a professional look and feel to your business. Now, if it's a first meeting somebody who might want you to be a coach, and you're just getting to know each other, and you're going to buy the prospective client a cup of coffee or something, fine. But I don't see how you can possibly work as a coach in a coffee shop and the other person gets the benefit. Did you see where I'm coming from?
Well, I think it depends on the coffee shop. If you're talking Tim Hortons or Starbucks, forget it, right?
I love
you can get some quiet areas.
So noisy.
But that's maybe just for an introductory meeting.
Yeah, the introductory meeting.
With the virtualness of office space and hoteling, there's many entities where you can go in and you can rent a room, or you can rent a desk, or a meeting facility for a period of time, and have that quiet ability to have one-on-one, also with audiovisual tools too. So,
but I mean, Trevor brought the question up about, how can you choose an expert? And basically, I don't think I want to work with somebody who only used a coffee shop to mentor me. Now, mentoring might be a bit different, because most of that is free, so maybe you've got to use a coffee shop, I don't know. But I think you've got to be professional and make your brand look professional as well. And so I guess that was a really great question from Trevor. And you've been on your travels up north, I guess. Have you been working?
The worst part about it is I'm up north for 4 days this past week. I had an awesome time on a Friday night. That doesn't
sound like a bad time to
meeting and taking photographs with a world-famous band, and it was just a real hot Chicago. Yeah,
I'm going to start singing.
Behind stage with Chicago on Friday night. But we were in the park just shooting pictures and stuff, and the bugs were just killing us, and it was raining. And we get back here, it's nice and sunny. What's with that, right? It always seems that weekends are horrible, that weeks are beautiful, right?
Well, I will have a word with him up there and see if he can arrange the weather for us. The point is, though, what you're doing, because you're busy, you're busy in business and you work very hard, you're taking time for yourself, and that's what I respect, because if you don't, you'll burn yourself out.
Well, in our capacity, society is just for us to take long weekends, and I have to spend a fair amount of time traveling up to our northern office. So,
I'm going to say, is this your quiet time now, or is this busy?
I don't think we really have a quiet time, right? Because we're doing a lot of preparatory work for things that are starting in believe it, the fall. We're talking the fall already, and it's June, right?
Please don't talk about that yet.
No. But that brings up an interesting question that I saw. Somebody asked me, how do you deal with having remote locations or being on vacation and dealing with clients and dealing with office work, right? And I think you've always had. It depends on the profession you're in, right? I mean, if you're a carpenter, you can take time off, right?
Once your projects you can't really do your carpentry while you're on a boat or something.
But if you've got clients more in a tangible kind of service, such as what I'm in, then we need to have that connectivity. So we need to have our technology figured out, right? We need to know that we've got an ability to have questions responded to, contact made. Staffing is important for that. But beyond that, what's the protocol for which you actually then are willing to take a call, right? I think you should always be plugged in, but you have to take downtime too. So you have to educate not only your staff, but you also have to educate your clients exactly what the protocol is.
I think that's really
unless
good.
it's an emergency, that's
really
a different situation.
Unless you're me, of course, because I have clients all over the place. It's very hard to switch off even when I want to go to sleep.
Well, that's the hardest thing, and that's the hard thing for small business owners to not be able. But they don't get that relaxation. They don't get that break, and that's stressful. And if you just continue going to that, right? The other thing, and I know you use it a lot, is Skype and FaceTime and things where you can have that one-on-one, but you don't have to be in the same location.
No, that really helps somebody like me who has global clients, and started interviewing people from all over the world for my other business, and it's so nice that this person is like in my office, but they're in Milan or somewhere like another country, so I really love that. What we've done though, Steve, we've built up our businesses slowly, bit by bit by bit, and we've built strong foundations. And I think the worry today, and I was talking about this recently to somebody, there's a mistrust of something that's called a small business today, because some of them don't stay in business long enough to make it work, and it's going to take more than a year or 2 years today. Well, again, depending which business. And so say you've got clients and you only stay in business a year, and then you decide to do something else, go and work for a corporation or something, then what are your clients going to do? What about the follow-up? What about the help that they still need?
Right, and I think that's very important in our business, right? And it's funny that technology and how do you deal with remoteness, that was actually a question that was brought up by an interview I'm potentially doing with Globe and Mail. So I was doing a little bit of research on it today. But the thing that you're asking about is planning. It really is planning to know that if you're going to be making a succession, take my business. I can't just turn the key and lock the door and walk away. I've got clients that are relying on me, so I need to have that. If I'm going to go from being what I'm doing now and go into a different role, then I need to have a plan by which that relationship is going to continue with another advisor. Yeah,
that's a good point. But the thing is, it's a shame because people are now distrusting brand new small businesses and don't want to be clients for them because how long are they going to be in business? So I think
it's a hard thing. It is really a hard thing.
It's getting harder as well because there's so many online things going on. So basically today, as you said, people can work virtually. Coaches in particular don't even need to have the person in the office or a coffee shop.
Exactly.
So, but I guess, again, they're building the foundations for a strong business and they are assisting the clients. It's the ones who don't last long enough to see it through.
Well, that's actually something when I got into the business I was in, I was look at those relationships with people who are new into the business, not only in terms of mentoring and coaching, if you want, but also knowing whether they're going to stay. And if they're not going to stay, well, then I was very active in terms of if there were people that were going to be left without an advisor to potentially pick up that part of the business to bring it into our business, right? Because I, in our business, don't like having people who put their trust in and, their relationship and their lives in some respects in the hands of an advisor, to have that advisor walk away for whatever reason that may be, to be left without a relationship. And that's not right.
Because you're a financial guy and there's a lot of trust involved, obviously, are most of your clients referred to you? Most of them I know from the SBCN have built relationships with you. But I mean, if you haven't met them before, they referred to you?
That's basically how our business is built now. Yeah. And there's different ways, and we can get into that in a different conversation through referral or introduction.
Yeah, that's a really good
But in the infancy of a business, you've got to grow it, and it's got to be organic, and you've got to find those ways to prospect, right? So will build itself hopefully to that point, but it's hard for small
So do
business.
you think it's going to
at the
change
start.
in your line of work over the next 5 to 10 years with more online resources? Do you think you'll be doing more online work with your clients?
We already are, to be
You
honest
are?
with you, and I think we need to be ahead of the curve on that, right? You know, if, I remember the days where we carried all kinds of applications in our car, and now it's all electronic. We do everything online, online
That's really
applications,
good.
communications, and we very often don't use a lot of paper like we used to, even like 2 to 3 years ago, to be honest with you. But we need to be that way. And where those particular advisors aren't going to be successful is if they're not embracing their technology. Technology, financial disruptions is, you know, that's a big term in any industry is disruptors, right?
Yeah.
We got to do our research to be ahead and make sure that we're capable.
So this is
of
why
functioning
Northern
in that
River
new reality.
Financial has grown. Its brand is very well known. You've taken more people on board, and basically the longevity really depends on the planning, prioritising and preparation.
Got it again.
I'm doing good tonight, aren't I? This is why I really admire you and I love working with you, because I learn a lot from you, Steve. I really do. And when you came up with the word Northern River Financial, I was really happy because it really fits in with your the word organic, your lifestyle, and how you treat your clients.
Well, again, the brand is based on a philosophy. It's how I envision. And for me, Northern River, as I always say in video on a website too, is that it's my happy place. In other words, being in a cottage up north, right? Everybody's got to have that place. You have your deck in your backyard with your pond. And your,
I love that pond.
But you got to be able to unplug. You got to be able to find an area where you're not stressed,
Yeah,
right?
that's my
And a lot of
baby.
people don't do that. So when we look at financial life planning, we look at you got to create a basis for your life today, not just planning for the future.
So when we've got a few minutes left. Should people start planning as soon as they've left school or university, do you think, for their
Even
financial?
before.
Even before
To be
that?
honest. And you know the biggest thing is it really depends on the influence that their families had on them.
Yeah, it's
right?
about the parents.
Some people
yeah.
are very prepared. Some people don't have that at home. I'm a big advocate for financial literacies in the school system, which I don't believe is the strength that it should have.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen clients who right out of the gate start planning right. And those are the ones that are going to go through life. You know, they're always going to have
yeah,
challenges in life,
yeah,
of course. But you know, if everything goes their
financial
way,
future, yeah.
it's a lot easier than trying to play catch up later.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I've heard now that millennials in particular are not wanting to buy homes at this point in time. They're buying condos or even renting them so they can buy a cottage. They'd rather have a cottage than...
It's amazing how many people have that primary residence or facility or, cottage, if that's what it is, somewhere else. Like particularly the ones who work in downtown cities, right? They have a little condo, just a place to sleep at night while
think
they're
it's a good
working.
idea.
And most of their life is out north.
I think
Or
it could
it's
cause a
outside
problem
of
though
the city.
if you're going to have more than one child. I mean, one child you could probably keep managing to pack up and go. But I think, like I have 4 all grown.
It's not even pack and going, it's just having that small condo downtown and putting more children into
Yeah.
it. They're not built that
So
way.
it's not going to work for that, I don't think, because I think bringing up my children, they did need kind of a routine and a home base and school and stuff like that. So it's difficult to do those kinds of things. I never realised that people as young as, even before they left school would be into the financial planning. That is amazing, Steve.
I wouldn't say they are. I think
You'd
there
like
are
them to
some
be.
that are and some that we try to encourage. So
And they
when we
should
work
be.
with families, like I wrote a blog post yesterday talking about family meetings where, parents are getting older. They should have those discussions with their
Yeah.
children, exactly where their assets
Yeah.
are, what their final wishes are, so that it's not just a shock because people die suddenly.
Yeah.
In this one case, is a client whose mother passed away from cancer, and she didn't have that talk with her family. So the father made sure that they did. So
That's
it
so
really
sad.
was something where people need to really be working together as family groups too.
Yeah, yeah. See, there's a sadness to your line of work, isn't it? It's not
Absolutely.
always about the beginning. It's sometimes about,
No,
it's
we
a lot
deal with
about
life
the
and
end.
death. To be honest
Yeah,
with you, from
yeah.
a monetary perspective.
And I think you do a very good job. We'd like to thank Northern River Financial for being our sponsor, our digital sponsor for this year. We think you're amazing. And Steve, we've decided, haven't we, that we are coming back in September.
We need a summer.
Yeah, because Steve's travelling up north, I'm travelling all over the place, but it's been absolutely lovely hosting this since January. And SBCN TV will be back in September, and I am sure we'll have some more topics to talk about then. Lots of questions, and we'll be sharing the video so people can revisit. And again, thank you to Trevor for asking us a question, because it takes a bit of time and effort to ask the question, so we thank you for that. And I think we answered it okay, dear.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
I think we did a good job. So I'm afraid you won't be seeing our smiling faces.
But what I will say is
Yes.
remember that you can go back to SBCN.TV and all our videos from our past episodes are there. You can
amazing.
watch them, and there's a lot of stuff you can learn from them, and we'll come back in September and do some more.
So this is why I like partnering with Steve, because he remembers the things I forget to do. And this is episode 9.
It is.
We'll be continuing with episode 10 in the fall. It's been lovely to see you again.
All right. Have a good summer.